So the Birchwood MCD 5000 from Miyabi is the most popular Miyabi that they have ever sold and that I've ever sold. But what is the difference between one that is 12 years old and been used in cooking classes thousands and thousands of times compared to one that is brand new? Okay, two knives. So this one here, 12 years old. When we first started teaching cooking classes in our Victoria location, when we first started Cook Culture in 2009, 2010, we got this knife here. And this is a 5000 MCD Birchwood. It went into the cooking school. It was the knife of choice by almost everybody. So this knife got used on every single class. We've taught hundreds of classes on knife skills. We've taught hundreds of classes on all different types of chopping of vegetables. This knife has been used and abused. It's been sharpened mechanically. We use a mechanical sharpener. That's all this knife has ever been sharpened with. And it is still in really good shape. I'm enjoying it. But what I'm really interested in is what's the longevity of a Miyabi? Like when you buy a knife like that, like arguably that knife has way more use than what would have been done at any time at home. I'd say that knife probably has 40 years of use, 50 years of use at home, right? Like it's just ridiculous how much it's been used, really. And this guy here is brand new, right out of the package. So we're going to test now cutting some tomatoes, one out of the package, and a freshly sharpened, thousands and thousands and thousands of times used Miyabi, Birchwood. So same knife, exactly the same knife. One, of course, is new and one is 12 years old. So let's do this here. We're going to, you can tell these knives apart. The insignia on here is in great shape. The insignia on this one is very worn out. You can also see that this knife has been sharpened so many times. I will measure this, but it is narrower from top to bottom. It's just been ground down so much. You can see that there is quite a difference in where the Damascus finish is and the cutting edge there shows itself. That is really not there anymore. There's really nothing left. It's been ground down so many times. But doesn't matter. The handle is in beautiful shape. It's much darker. The other one, this one's much lighter. This one is much darker. It's been used, of course, by thousands of people. But the handle is in perfect shape. It's connected to the metal bolster really, really well, or the heel of the blade here. And it just is in perfect shape. There's no gap. The red is a little bit darker, I would say, with the kind of banding that goes around it. The insignia, the Miyabi insignia, is feeling fantastic. It's not popped out. Nothing has moved, is what I'm saying. This knife feels absolutely fantastic in the hand. It feels exactly the same as this one. This one actually has even more texture. This one is very smooth. This has been worked so many times, this wood. This has a little more texture to it. So it feels new. There's grain in this wood, is what I'm saying. I can feel the newness of that knife. So, knife feels the same. So, let's grab a tomato. We're going to simply chop. That is like butter. It feels phenomenal. What you would want a knife to feel like. That, to me, that's the used one. And it is slicing perfectly. That is a Miyabi Birchwood to me. It is like butter through a fairly firm tomato. So the new one, like, there's no difference there. That is so much the same knife. So we'll try again there. The one that's just freshly sharpened. No pushing down. That's just the weight of the knife. Cutting through that tomato. No pushing down. Okay, that went through a little bit faster without the weight of the knife. So, okay, so no weight. No weight. Okay, so there's a little bit more sharpness there. Let's try that again. That's a good way to kind of test here. Okay, so no weight whatsoever. All I'm doing is guiding this knife through. Okay, and no weight whatsoever. It falls through a little bit better. There's just a tiny bit difference of it, that it just kind of falls through that tomato with no weight from me whatsoever. That's just the weight of the knife. But it's negligible. It's very, very small. So that is a very, 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 very slight difference. So I'm very, very, very impressed. So after 12 years, and like, I can't tell you how much this knife is being used. You know, when we have taught hundreds of thousands of people through that school, that location in Victoria, over the time that we've had it, you know, that's been just an ongoing cooking school, just pushing through, and this knife has been used in every single class. This is a fresh knife. These knives are nearly the same. So this is pretty awesome. You know, investing in a knife like this, because this is not an inexpensive knife. I will put a link to this knife in Canada and the US. You can take a look there and see the current price of this knife. It's fairly dear. It is pretty amazing the way in which it's made. This has 100 layers of Damascus. So this is a folded and forged knife, 100 layers, and it has a cutting core called SG2, Super Gold 2. It is a very unique cutting core blade that Zwilling uses a lot of the available steel. You don't see SG2 in many other blades outside of the Zwilling brand. Zwilling will use SG2 in several different knives, but it is pretty insane. It is got a high Rockwell hardness. I think it's around 66. Don't get me wrong, somewhere in there. It's incredibly hard, so it sharpens very, very, very well. With all Japanese knives, you need to be very careful. It can chip and dent. Amazingly, with all of the newbies using this in cooking classes, we've never had a problem with this. And that does go to the SG2 steel. It is incredibly hard, but has a little bit of bendableness to it. So it doesn't shatter or chip the same way that I've seen some other Japanese knives. It's pretty durable. You know, we get a lot of these knives back in to maintain them, to sharpen them for customers. And I actually don't know if I have seen a badly damaged Birchwood before. So the SG2 is pretty darn amazing. So I'm a big, big fan of it in whatever knife it comes in, and it comes in the Birchwood. And like I was saying, you know, these have a wood handle. This is a real wood handle, and this has stood up beautifully well. So the feeling of this knife, actually 12 years old, feels more comfortable than the new one. This has a little bit of texture to it. And this is very smooth and very kind of buttery in its hand. It feels excellent. And the transition into the steel from the wood is still absolutely amazing. So I'm already a huge fan of the Birchwood, but this is just truly amazing. I'm really stunned on how this nearly equals the performance of a brand new knife after how long this has been used. So, you know, I was already a big fan. I'm already a convert. I'm a bit biased in this entire video, of course, because I sell Miyabi. I love Miyabis. But, you know, I was interested. I didn't know what the difference was going to be here. So I was very open to this guy being like, okay, you know, it's got its legs are getting short, and maybe it's time to replace this knife in the kitchen, which I do all the time. I replace lots of things. I replace pans and glasses and all the things. Things wear out in our commercial kitchens, and that's what we do. But this guy is going to go back into the commercial kitchen, and it's going to probably go for another 10 years. It's just ridiculous. The narrowness of this guy, that might become a problem. So 10 years, maybe I'm stretching it. And then we'll measure that right now, and we'll see what that is. But it has had a fair amount that has been taken off of it for sharpening, and that is going to start to thicken. As this blade comes up from the cutting core and it starts to get in, as I sharpen further in, as the blade gets thick, that becomes a bit of a problem, and you don't get the same type of sharpness. So I'll measure that one right now, and we'll just see the difference between the width of these two blades. Okay, where are we at here? Okay, so the new knife, let's go right to the tip here so we can be equal. 10, 20, 30, 40, 44 millimeters. And 10, 20, 30, 40. 40 millimeters. Okay, so 4 millimeters. That doesn't seem like a lot, but it has taken all of the cutting core, or what the exposed cutting core, not all of the cutting core, but the exposed cutting core off. So it's taken quite a lot off. 4 millimeters over 12 years. It's quite a bit. So there's definitely more longevity in this knife. So the new knife for sure is going to have more longevity. At some point in time, this will start to hit the thickest part of the knife, and then it's not going to sharpen as well or the same way. Possibly, but we've got years still in this knife. It's working amazingly right now. It doesn't feel like it's getting aged out in any way. I sharpened this earlier today and it sharpened easily and beautifully, and everything about it is just great. But that is the biggest difference. 4 millimeters off the blade over 12 years. But does that affect it? No, not right now. So I hope that helps. One of these blades is a massively good investment. The Birchwood is a tremendous choice. Miyabi has lots. I'm a huge Miyabi fan. Find somewhere that sells Miyabi. Go get one of these guys in your hand and choose yourself one of these knives, and you will be forever happy. Any questions, any comments, please throw them below. Thanks so much.